Hey, what's up, wrestling fans? And welcome into the January 7th, 2020 episode of the Jayson A. Mark Wrestling Report. This is the very first wrestling report that we are doing in the new year. So I want to take a minute to thank all of you who are with us through 2019 and wish you a happy new year and much growth growing forward. We're hoping to do some growing here on the show this year. And we very, very much hope the same for you. Hope you had a awesome, safe, happy, drama-free holiday season this year. And if you're new here, or if you just haven't done it yet, if you could, please click subscribe on the realm that you're listening to us on today. And if you'd like to help out the show in a non-monetarily kind of way, please take a moment to rate, review, and pass this thing on, share it with a friend. January 6th, 2020 was the very first episode of Monday Night Raw for the new year. And we got to see a couple of title defenses. We got to see a major announcement made by Brock Lesnar and on his somewhat unusual plans for Royal Rumble. And we got to see a big surprise that Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens had for their opponents for the evening, the AOP and Seth Rollins. The evening started out with Paul Heyman coming down to the ring with Brock Lesnar by his side. Brock made a major announcement, a historical announcement. Well, Brock didn't make it. He bounced around Paul while Paul made the major historical announcement. Paul had said that he approached Brock and had asked him who he felt was worthy of a shot at his WWE championship at WrestleMania, to which Brock responded that there is nobody that is worthy of facing Brock Lesnar for his WWE title at WrestleMania. So the major announcement was that Brock was going to be entering the Royal Rumble. Well, not only was he going to be entering the Royal Rumble, he was going to be entering, and as Paul is saying this, he says, well, why not go all in? And as soon as he said, well, why not go all in, I'm thinking, sweet, he's going to put this title up at the Royal Rumble. Whoever wins the Royal Rumble is then going to win the WWE Championship, and that's their way of getting the belt off of Brock without actually having him get beat, like in a match. So I was fine with that. I would very much like to see that belt. I'm not one that has anything against Brock Lesnar. I find his matches actually pretty entertaining. I might not like the fact that he ended the streak. I'm still bitter about that. But I thought it was extremely exciting when Seth finally beat him and finally got the Universal title off of him. I thought that was one of the better matches that I've seen from Brock in quite some time. And it made me realize that I don't dislike Brock. I find him exciting. I like his matches. Some of them sometimes. I just don't personally like him having the title on him because I like to see it defended. I don't like to see it defended 3 times a year, 4 times a year, whatever it is that he's under contract for. So Paul, as he's saying, well, why not go all in? I'm thinking that he's going to put this title up at the Royal Rumble, in the Royal Rumble match itself. But no, he said Brock's going to be entering the Royal Rumble as the number 1 contestant. So anybody that enters the Royal Rumble, you are now guaranteed to have to deal with Brock Lesnar, is the thought. I think that they could go 2 ways with this. I think, as I said, they could eventually get to a point where they're now putting the title on the line also in the Royal Rumble match as a way of getting it off of Brock, if that's the route that they want to go. I I think that they could have Brock last all the way through and be one of the final four, and his WrestleMania opponent is one of those four guys, or somebody who comes in and interferes at the end and is a reason why Brock's eliminated. That I could see. Or what I could see, and that would be the big swerve and the big surprise, is I could see Brock going in as the number one and getting eliminated rather quickly by somebody that he eventually is going to take on at WrestleMania. So they could do the WrestleMania setup and get Brock in there, get him out of there, which has kind of been his MO through the last few pay-per-views, is he tends to go on early and get out of there. So I think that could very well happen. If there's 30 members in the Royal Rumble and they're a minute apart, that's at least a 30-minute match, minimum. And that just doesn't really fit into what we've seen out of Brock here for the last couple of years. So I have a feeling that they're going to bring him in. They're going to have something wonky happen where he gets eliminated early and he puts the blame of his elimination onto somebody, and then that's who he's going to take on at WrestleMania. That's just a feeling. And it'll probably be Cain Velasquez. Maybe. I don't know. That's my thought. And I still think that there's a chance that they could eventually work their way into putting the belt on the line there as well in that. Speaking of belts on the line, the very first title match of the new year on Raw took place between, it was actually the first actual match of the evening, between Rey Mysterio and United States champion Andrade. This was actually a really, really fun match. There was kind of a little bit of wonkiness at the end. Fun match, though. Through the match, Rey hits a 619. They're going back and forth. They're beating the hell out of each other. It's looking like Rey's gonna win this title. He catches Andrade at some point in the match with a destroyer pretty much out of nowhere, which was awesome. Gets the pin and the win, but what the ref didn't see was that Zelina Vega had put Andrade's foot on the bottom rope. So the official then sees the foot on the rope and calls for the bell again, says, you know what, nope, we're not doing this. We're going to restart this match. When the match restarted, there was a spot, the part that got a little different was Andrade standing on the outside of the ring and near Zelina Vega, and Rey comes running across the apron, along the apron, towards Andrade, and Andrade catches him in like a electric chair position, basically, and he flings Rey up over him onto Zelina Vega. Zelina goes down. Action that's where things got kind of weird. I feel like Rey kind of missed that he was supposed to really, really focus on Zelina Vega there. And eventually Rey is very concerned with what's going on the outside of the ring with Zelina Vega. He's apologizing to her, saying he didn't mean to do that. He really didn't do it, though. He was thrown into her. But as the action goes back into the ring, Andrade now has his window of opportunity, and he does the hammerlock DDT, lands it, sticks it, pins Rey, and Zelina Vega has her thumbprints all over Andrade, defending his title against Rey Mysterio. Ding, 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 ring the bell. Andrade wins and defends. After the match, it got a little crazy again. During the hammerlock DDT, Rey's mask kind of slipped off of him a little bit, and Andrade took that opportunity to remove the mask from Rey, and he gave it to Zelina Vega as kind of as a peace offering, as they called it. This was an awesome match. I really like this match. This was a great way to kick things off. Not only did we get to actually see a singles title, in which the U.S. title has become the number one singles men's title on Monday Night Raw, because we never get to see old Brock. So the U.S. title's become the number one title, I think, on Monday Night Raw. So to see it defended to kick off the new year as the first match, and it was between Rey and Andrade, that's pure gold right there, baby. Speaking of pure gold, Samoa Joe and KO were backstage being interviewed by Charlie Caruso, and they were talking about how they are going to be taking on the AOP and Seth Rollins in a 6-man tag match. Or I'm sorry, he being Samoa Joe said, "I'll tell you what, AOP, Seth Rollins, how about you take on the 3 of us tonight in a 6-man tag match?" And Kevin Owens kind of turns to him, and he kind of looks at him, and he points to him and himself and Charlie, and he says, "I'm assuming you don't mean the 3 of us, right?" and Samoa Joe says, "No, man, don't worry. I've got a surprise for you. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. I got a guy." So the mystery begins. Who is the mystery partner for Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe to be taking on Seth Rollins, the Monday Night Messiah Seth Rollins, and the AOP? They come back from break, and Seth Rollins and AOP are walking through the back. Charlie approaches them, and that's when Seth calls himself the Chosen One and says that he's the Messiah of Monday Night Raw, and he's going to save Monday Night Raw because he's Seth Rollins, and that's what he's here to do. I absolutely love Seth as a heel. I think that Seth as a heel is just so much better, because babyface Seth tends to come off as a little nerdy or dorky. Maybe not nerdy or dorky, but he reminds me of the kind of guy that would be one of my buddies. Creative, talented dude that's just a little quirky. Like that's the kind of feeling that I get from Seth as a babyface, is that he's just like one of my buddies. Like he's just an average nerdy kind of dude. So Seth as a heel, I'm really digging it. I like him hooked up with the AOP too, and him being hooked up with a couple of badasses is pretty good stuff. I really like that. I really like what they're doing with Seth. I really liked this Monday Night Raw altogether. I thought this was the best Raw that I've seen in some time. I don't know if it's some sort of connection with Paul Heyman taking over a little bit more in terms of the creative stuff with Vince. I would imagine at some point Vince is going to have to put much more of his attention towards the XFL that's scheduled to launch here this year. So, I mean, they're kicking off here in a few months, and Vince is going to have to shift his attention, I would think, to that. So I'm wondering if this awesome episode of Monday Night Raw doesn't have something to do, some sort of a connection with that. The next title match that we got to see in the new year on Monday Night Raw was a triple threat match for the Raw tag team titles, as the champions, the Viking Raiders, took on the Street Profits and the OC. This was a really fun match. I really dig all 3 of these teams. I have been big fans of War Machine for forever. Back in their New Japan days, in Ring of Honor days, I really a big fan of both them. The OC, of course, who doesn't like Gallows and Anderson? I love Gallows and Anderson. I think they're awesome. I'm really glad to see them getting a much bigger push. Glad to see him hooked back up with AJ. I wish they'd call him something other than the OC, but anyhow, can't be a perfect world, right? And they also took on the third tag team in this match was the Street Profits, another one of my favorites in WWE. I love the Street Profits. I think they're a super fun tag team. Obviously, everybody loves the Street Profits. I think I very much look forward to. I think eventually they're going to get the tag team titles on them. I very much look forward to that. This was a really fun match. This is actually one that, if you didn't get to watch Monday Night Raw, this is one that you should go take a look at. The Rey and Andrade match and this one were both primetime matches. I thought this was really fun. The Viking Raiders eventually were able to retain their title. They did the powerbomb by Rey Monroe, and Hansen flew off the top ropes with the splash, and they pinned, I believe it was Carl Anderson that they pinned. So the Viking Raiders were able to retain their titles, and I'm curious to see where they go next. I'm assuming that their next opponents, they made such a big thing and a big to-do, and still did even during this match, about how the OC are the only team in WWE that have pinned the Viking Raiders. So I think that they had to have them involved in this. I love the OC. Gallows and Anderson are awesome. I love them. But I think that the Viking Raiders against the Street Profits would be phenomenal. That's kind of what I'm hoping that they shift to. I hope eventually it's the Street Profits against the Viking Raiders 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. And of course I hope that the Street Profits go over and they get those belts. Again, love the Viking Raiders. Love the OC and love the Street Profits. So really anybody that walks away from this feud with the title, it's a winner for me. Again, backstage, Charlie is talking to Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is telling Samoa Joe, look, I don't exactly have a lot of friends here. I've kind of had a bit of a checkered past here in the WWE. So I'd actually kind of like to know who our tag team partner is too. It's not just a suspenseful thing that we're holding Seth and the AOP in. I'm pretty suspenseful here myself, and I'd kind of like to know, just so I know what I'm walking into. And of course, then Joe says, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll do better than tell you. I'm going to show you. So they take off walking down the hall, and as they go to break, Charlie's hot on their trail. They come back from break, and they're standing outside just a regular old standard black metal door. So Joe knocks on the door. Kevin Owens goes into the room to see who their partner is. Charlie kind of goes, and the camera starts to go and follow Kevin, and Joe says, no, easy there. I'm showing my partner this. I'm not showing you. This is a surprise for you still. You don't get to see this. And KO comes out of the room, and he looks very happy, and he's nodding his head, and he says, okay. We're all right. Seth and the AOP aren't, but we're okay. So whoever this mystery tag team partner is, it's obviously someone that KO, number one, respects, and number two, is happy to have him on his side. There's then a Becky Lynch in-ring promo in which she is talking about should she remain protected and continue to protect herself as the WWE wants to do. against the one woman that she can't seem to beat, Asuka. And they run some highlights of Asuka in her one-on-one match against Becky when she defended her SmackDown Women's title against Becky. And they also showed the tag team match with the Kabuki Warriors against Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, in which Asuka pinned Becky in that as well. So Asuka seems to have Becky's number, and Becky is saying, you know what? I'm still pressing forward, and this is still the one that I want to take on next. As she's saying this, Asuka comes walking down the ramp, and she is like a tornado. She's yelling and screaming in both some English, but mostly like 95% Japanese. And she is just screaming at the top of her lungs and just ranting and raving all the way down the ramp. She gets in the ring and she goes to yell some more, and Becky catches her with a stiff right hand and flops her down, just drops her. So, and then Becky just turns around and walks on out of the ring, walks up the ramp. Done. It was brilliant. I love Becky, though. Of course, everybody loves Becky. I'm a big fan of Asuka, too. Big fan of Asuka, too, so I'm looking forward to this one. This should be really fun. I really like the women's division to begin with, and who doesn't love Becky again? Becky's the man. She's the man for a reason. Eric Rowan is then shown walking backstage, and he's approached by Mojo Rawley. Rowan has his cage with the burlap sack over it, and Mojo says, I gotta ask, can I please see what's in the cage? Just a little peek at what's in the cage. And Eric Rowan kind of gives him the, okay, you can take a little peek. And Mojo carefully pulls back the little bit of burlap sack that's cut around the handle that Eric's carrying this cage around with. And he looks in there and immediately jerks back, falls back into some equipment boxes, gives him the, oh my God, what the hell, man? What's wrong with you? He did a really great job. It was actually pretty good. I'm not so sure about this whole Eric Rowan, what's in the cage thing. I'm a lot leery about what's in the cage. I actually kind of have a feeling that they're never going to actually reveal what was in that cage or what is in the cage. And I'm worried about if they do. Because if they do and when they do, it's probably going to be something stupid. So I'm half hoping that they never do actually reveal what's in this cage. There is then an interview with Andrade backstage, and the interviewer asks him, Andrade, did you go too far? And Andrade's got the mask in hand, Rey's mask still in hand. And from out of nowhere, Rey, still unmasked, all you can see is the back of his head, comes flying in, and he's just beating the hell out of Andrade. He's attacking him. It was pretty brutal. And Rey takes his mask back, puts his mask on, and then continues to beat the hell out of Andrade. It's good stuff. I'm really digging this feud. It's some fun stuff. So Rey goes and attacks Andrade backstage and got his mask back. Eric Rowan then made his way from the backstage area and scaring the hell out of Mojo Rawley into the ring, in which he was taking on some jobber with neon stars on his trunks. I didn't actually catch his name, but of course this was a squash match for Eric Rowan. He threw this little jobber around. He wasn't a very big dude. Looked pretty young too. And he threw him around the ring a little bit, gave him the Iron Claw. Ding, ding, ding. Eric Rowan gets the pin and the win. It's a total squash match. After the match, though, he grabbed this poor kid and he drug him to the outside of the ring, and he forced him to, he's yelling the whole time, "Do you want to see what's in the cage? Do you want to see?" And he forces this kid to look at what is in this cage, and he starts screaming bloody murder. He whips his head back. He's got blood all over his face. He goes running up the ramp screaming and yelling. I don't know what's in that cage. Whatever it is, turn this kid's face into a bloody mess. Again, I've kind of got a feeling that it's going to be one of those situations where they hold it over us and they say, you know, they do this whole what's in the cage, what's in the cage, what's in the cage, what's in the cage. And then eventually they just forget about it and they don't show us what's in the cage. Kind of almost half rooting for that to be that instead of it being something lame or whatever. The next match was between AJ Styles and Akira Tozawa. This was surprisingly one-sided towards AJ Styles. I know AJ Styles is a badass, but I felt like they kind of buried Akira here. I like Akira Tozawa. And they have to do something with him now that 205 Live is fading away and has basically become a part of NXT. And I know that they're trying to make AJ look strong, and they're trying to get a lot of their stronger guys that are at the top to pick up a bunch of wins. But I wish it was against somebody other than Tozawa, I guess. I really like Tozawa. But anyway, AJ pretty much mops the floor with Tozawa. He hits the phenomenal forearm fairly early in this match. And instead of pinning, he pulls up Tozawa on the 2 count. He's not quite done with him yet. He plays with Tozawa a little bit, and he does the legs draped over the ropes DDT that Randy Orton does, his signature move. And then he does the voices in the head thing where he's pounding on the mat and he's setting up his opponent, and then he eventually hits the RKO, and then he gets the pin for the win. AJ even took it as far as doing Randy's post-match celebration where he puts the arms up and does the Predator basking in the sun thing that Randy does. AJ also did that after this match. So shots fired by AJ Styles. This should be a pretty fun feud. I love AJ. I think that Randy can be very good. So this AJ against Randy should be some good stuff. And I like the setup. I like AJ doing Randy's signature moves, doing Randy's signature celebrations, just really, really rubbing Randy's nose in this thing. Speaking of rubbing your nose in it, the Lana and Lashley wedding mess continued on to this week. The official from last week is in the ring, and he is going to finally conduct this ceremony and wed Bobby Lashley and Lana. There's the crowd's chanting Rusev Day, and they're booing this, and da-da-da-da-da. Lana says, no, wait, stop. None of you are happy for me. I'm not happy because you're not happy for me. I know you're not happy. I feel sad, and you don't want to see this ring on my finger. Well, too bad, that sort of thing. And Rusev, in the rubbing your nose in it, he comes up on the Tron in some tropical thing area. It was blue screened, obviously, because the ocean wasn't moving. It was just a picture. So Rusev is on his vacation because Bob and Lana didn't go on a honeymoon, he decided to celebrate their marriage by going on a vacation himself. This is all basically essentially setting up more Bobby Lashley and Rusev. Rusev said that he had a gift for Mr. and Mrs. Bob, and it was a wedding album in which they had some stills from the wedding nightmare that they had last week. And eventually, Bobby Lashley then says something about Rusev's balls. I can't even remember what it was. It was something about his balls. So it's setting up another match next week between Bobby Lashley and Rusev. I don't know. This whole wedding angle has been not my favorite angle at all. I've actually thought this whole wedding thing's been pretty terrible, but I really like Rusev. So I'm interested in the match itself. I hope that I hope they move on to something else here very soon. I don't want to see Rusev and Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. I really don't. Charlie is then interviewing R-Truth backstage, and Liv Morgan comes over and interrupts. And she says that she knows that Lana is going to be in Bobby Lashley's corner next week. And so she wanted to show support to Rusev and be in his corner. She said she had a little catchphrase. She said that being in Rusev's corner while Lana's in Bobby Lashley's corner is a moment to live for. So apparently that's a part of her new thing that we're yet to see. Another new thing was Sarah Logan. I hadn't seen this yet. She had some new face paint on, and she took on Charlotte Flair, or she was going to take on Charlotte Flair. As Charlotte, though, was coming down to the ring, Sarah Logan then attacked Charlotte, jumped the gun on her. As Charlotte's laying outside the ring, her robe is still on the inside of the ring, and Sarah Logan goes to the ring, and she's flipping and flopping the robe around, just basically beating on the robe. And the announcer said, hey, that's probably not a good idea. That robe was given to Charlotte by her father. And Charlotte, that sets her off. She gives a spear to Sarah Logan and then continues to beat the hell out of Sarah Logan. She then turns to the official and says, go get my robe, which the official does. He goes and fetches Charlotte's robe for her. Charlotte puts her robe back on, walks back up the ramp. No match. No match in that one. And No Way Jose would take on Drew McIntyre next. Drew squashed the hell out of No Way Jose. He not only beat on him, but he gave a pretty brutal destroyer to a reverse destroyer on the apron to one of the conga line members. He hits a claymore, ding, ding, ding. Drew McIntyre picks up the win. He then gets on the mic and he says, who out there dares me to hit another claymore? So he says, and then he says, well, who double dares me? And then he hits a brutal claymore, just runs right through No Way Jose. He pops up and he says, I didn't even drop the microphone. How about that? And he says, and don't expect an apology either. He says, I've always hated conga lines. He points to the dude in the cheeseburger outfit. He says, except for the cheeseburger, you seem like a pretty nice guy. I love Drew McIntyre. This was another good segment. I see them building up Drew McIntyre. I know that's what they're doing. Again, this was kind of like the AJ Styles match, where they're looking to have one of their top level superstars look even better. So good on you. I really liked this. On the mic, as Drew's dressing down not only No Way Jose, but pretty much the entire roster. He says that he is then going to enter himself into the Royal Rumble. So we have another entrance into the Royal Rumble, and it's another badass, Mr. Drew McIntyre. Yet another match that was a bit of a squasher. Aleister Black took on Shelton Benjamin. They, again, are trying to make Aleister Black look very strong. Which they did. He beat the brakes off of Shelton Benjamin, and Aleister Black looked very strong doing it. He looked very strong in this match. He hit his black mass. Ding, ding, ding. He gets the pin for the win. As he's getting the pin, though, in rushes Buddy Murphy, and he's beating the hell out of Aleister Black. He hits a couple running knees. At some point, he finishes off Aleister Black by putting the chair underneath his chin, and then gives him another running knee with the chair involved. It was pretty brutal. And then after he beats the hell out of Aleister Black, he then gets on the barricade, and he does Aleister's sitting position, Indian style, with his legs crossed, meditative style. I don't know how else you would call that. But Aleister Black's signature, he does that sitting over the beaten Aleister Black. This is another one that Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black, I could literally watch this every week, every pay-per-view from now for the rest of the year, and I would be perfectly fine with it. I think that these guys are both phenomenal. I love this feud that they've had. Again, I want to see more of it. This is one that WWE, they tend to take their rivalries and their programs and kind of overdo it a little bit and run it into the ground a little bit. This is a situation where they can do this literally, like I said, every week for the next year and have them on every pay-per-view for the next year, and I'd be just fine with it. The big main event of the evening was next. And speaking of just fine with it, another thing that I'm just fine with, Mr. Seth Rollins being a heel, he and the AOP were in the main event, and they were taking on Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and the big mystery partner. So first, of course, they introduce AOP and Seth. They then introduced Kevin Owens, then Samoa Joe. They played this up beautifully. And then as Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens are standing at the bottom of the ramp, you hear, "Well, it's the Big Show." And the Big Show comes out. He makes his big return. 2 years he's been away from Monday Night Raw. And he is making his big triumphant return as the mystery third member of this tag team, the six-man tag, in this six-man tag match. I got a little excited there. I was really excited when I heard the Big Show's music. He looked great. I've always been a big fan of Big Show. And I can't get enough of Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe, especially Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe together. They're my two favorite guys probably on the roster right now. And they're pairing them up together, and now they throw the Big Show in there too. I mean, it's beautiful. Beautiful. They start out this match with Big Show and Akam going at it. This was pretty much a Big Show kind of match. They had Big Show dominating Akam to begin with. He tags in Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe comes in. He looks like he's dominating. They tag in Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is bouncing around. He's doing the put your dukes up thing to Razor and Seth Rollins on the apron. Eventually, Kevin goes to the top rope, and with the official's back turned, I believe it was Razor, came running across the apron from behind and knocked Kevin Owens from inside the ring to the outside. So sneaky AOP, they get the advantage. Seth Rollins and the AOP then take control of the match. They do the cut the ring off thing with Kevin Owens. They keep him on their side of the ring, and they're tagging back and forth, and they're beating the hell out of Kevin. The Big Show then distracts, I believe it was Razor. It may have been Akam though, but I believe it was Razor. Yes, it was. It was Razor. Razor tags in. He's going to go beat the hell out of Kevin Owens some more, and he's distracted by Big Show on the apron, and Kevin Owens takes advantage of this and gets in a super kick and gets in a running palm strike on Razor, flops Razor over. KO finally gets the big hot tag. Show comes in there. He gets the big hot tag to Show. Big Show comes in there, and he's cleaning house again. He's mopping the floor with Seth and the AOP. The AOP then are on the outside of the ring while Seth and Big Show are in the ring, and they take out Samoa Joe. They throw Samoa Joe into the steel steps. Inside the ring now, Big Show grabs both Akam and Razor by the throat. He's setting them up to do the double choke slam. And then Seth Rollins comes into the ring with a steel chair, and he saves his tag team partners by hitting Big Show in the back with a steel chair. Ding, 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 ring the bell. Seth Rollins and the AOP are officially disqualified. End of match. The AOP and Seth then turn their full attention to Big Show. They're on top of him. They're beating the hell out of him. Samoa Joe tries to come rushing into the ring to make the save, but AOP double team on Samoa Joe. They get him out of the picture. It's now Big Show, who's on all fours in the middle of the ring, and Seth. Seth is setting up for the big stomp on Big Show. And as he is ready to run at Big Show, Kevin Owens grabs Seth Rollins by the ankle and doesn't allow him to hit the stomp. Seth turns his attention to Kevin Owens outside the ring, and as he turns around in the ring, Big Show catches him with the big right and flops him over, knocks him out to the point where he's out cold, and AOP had to drag Seth up the ramp by his arms with his legs dangling, and they just drug him right up the ramp. It was awesome. Well done. Very well done. As the show was closing, they announced that next week we are going to have Big Show, Kevin Owens, and Samoa Joe taking on AOP and Seth Rollins, but this is going to be a WWE first fist fight. I don't know what that is. Literally, I don't. Jerry Lawler, I don't even think they know what that is yet, because as they're leaving, as the show's fading to black and it's closing out the show, you can hear Jerry Lawler say, "Well, what the hell's a fist fight?" So I'm not sure what the fist fight is next week, but it's setting up. It's officially set up. This was some fun stuff. Again, the big surprise, the big reveal of the Big Show. I thought it was fantastic. It was great seeing him again. He looks to be in fantastic shape still. Not quite in the shape that he got. He looked a little too skinny back when he got pissed off because Shaq quit on him on that fight at WrestleMania when he was supposed to retire. And he got in that really great shape. He got really lean. He looks like he's actually put on a little bit of weight since then. He looked really, really, really good. I'm very happy for him. He looked awesome. This was, again, a really fun Monday Night Raw. I really enjoyed this Raw. I haven't really enjoyed too many Raws since all the way going back to the draft, actually. I liked some of the NXT Invasion stuff that they did, but it's been a while since I could say that I really enjoyed a Raw, and I really enjoyed this Monday Night Raw. I thought it was excellent. So thank you guys for listening. I very much appreciate it. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. If you haven't already, please do click subscribe on the realm that you're listening to us on today. And if you could, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with a friend. I very much appreciate you guys listening. Love you guys. Thank you.